Welcome back
Welcome.
to another episode.
Of Let
Let
Me
we
Go
go there.
There. And with the last two episodes have been pretty light, I feel
Light.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Nice, light little topic. What are we going there on today?
Well, we're bringing it back to one of the uncomfortable ones because today we're going there on racism. Now, I don't know, obviously, what it's like to be in your shoes, but
And I don't know what it's like to be in yours. So let's start there, right?
yeah, but the best way we can know more is by talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think in the same way, Black, Indian, Hispanic, all people who are not at the top of this societal structure that we have somehow allowed to like infiltrate our lives, like
Mm-hmm.
we all experience what is like that racism. For me, growing up in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago, it's it's something, thankfully, that I didn't experience on a crazy scale in my family. But recently, I was speaking to someone that I went to school with, and she mentioned that, well, she's mixed Indian black, I'm mixed Indian black, which is a sprinkle of Venezuelan. And like she mentioned that on her side, the Indian part of the family is like very racist, and
Mm.
like because her complexion was darker, it's like in a lot in like East Indian culture here still, it's like they want you to be the fairest of them all, and it's like the closer you are to whiteness, like the more elite you are, the more prettier you are. If you are darker skin, it doesn't, they could never see you as pretty, which is such a shame. And like that level of racism, especially to women, like Douglas, like we call them, people who are mixed with African and Indian, we call
Mm-hmm.
them Douglas. Which I'm probably is like a racist term in itself. I don't know. It probably is. If there's anyone who has like a deep um knowledge of like the history of these specific things, like we would love to know and we would love to learn. Obviously, like we're talking from our personal experience. But yeah, like something like that, where the color of your skin, like your own family beating you down, it does something to your self-worth, and it's like such a bigger battle to believe that you are beautiful and like you deserve the same things as the fairer cousin or sister or brother that you're growing up with. And like these have long lasting effects on us if we don't like actually are aware of it. um Carl Jung, who is like a philosopher, he argued that like if we don't pay attention to like our shadow self, the things that are the most hurtful to us, then like they would eventually consume our lives. And I think like a lot of women who experience racism in the Caribbean, they if they don't acknowledge it, it could manifest itself in ways like marrying someone who is fairer or looking for like a white partner to find their self-worth, instead of looking within and realizing, no, I am beautiful, I am valuable, my life has worth, and it doesn't have to revolve around this societal structure. So yeah, that is a lot about just like top of my head how I feel like racism is so gross.
Yeah, and I think too, like it's not just racism, but it's colorism, right? Which is we've been talking about a lot
Yeah.
lately again, where it's like within communities, within black and brown communities, like you said, getting to be the fairest, even if you are still, black, you are still brown, but because you are lighter skinned. And it just like it breaks my heart because I think about this one video that I watched where it was all these little kids and they all different backgrounds and they have different dolls. They have the and then they have the white
Yeah.
dolls and then the black dolls, and it's like both the white and the black children chose the white dolls
Yeah.
and said like that the black doll like was bad or wasn't pretty and whatever. And I'm just like sobbing, like, you know,
Mhm.
because it's just like, wow, that's really what they believe because of what their own family members, like you said, are telling them. You know, it's like if you are going to the party and the lighter skinned one is constantly getting the praise and the attention, it's like how can they not feel that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
it really is hard, and like when we think of like racism, I have this idea that like in order to be racist as like a big person, you kind of have to not be educated, or just like you are bigot, because at some point you need to like figure out, why do I have these ideologies? Is this something I actually believe in, or is it something that was like ingrained into me from a child so that the world could function the way that it does? And newsflash, the way that the world functions right now, it's like up in flames. Racism literally fueled like the slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade. It was justified for like missionaries going out and forcing their culture, including like they didn't just go out spreading religion, but also like, you know, raping and pillaging nations.
Mm.
So under the guise of, yeah, people who have darker skin tones are less worthy, and therefore like we can dehumanize them and enslave them. So it really is dumb to be racist, knowing that it was just the way for white people to just begin a hierarchy where they got the most resources out of like nations. So yeah, I think everyone needs to like really see if they have any like racist tendencies.
Mm.
Even microaggressions is another thing that comes to mind, like going to school. And there was this teacher who always like singled me out for my hair, and I believe I touched on this on a previous
Just like,
episode.
how could you anything but beauty right here, you
Yeah,
know?
because it's like obviously in school for 8 hours, your hair is gonna get frizzy. Like your hair is curly and you're white, and
Oh
you know about the
yeah,
frizz.
it's real.
And like my classes with her would always be in the afternoon, and I'm a kid. Like, of course I'm gonna play
Yeah.
and run around, and my hair is gonna get frizzy. And she would always give me shit about my hair, so I eventually started to put relaxer in my hair. And
How old were you?
I was probably like 15, 16.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, shame on to that teacher, but
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
yeah.
it's like also realizing that they know that they're shaming black women, or people who have like black in their
Textured hair and all that kind
ethnicities,
of, yeah.
to not love their hair. Then you're giving them products like the relaxer, for instance, chemical products, to make them closer to whiteness in that way, with like the straight hair Europeans beauty standards.
Well, and what about the chemicals in general for the health? Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah.
then it's like we're finding out now that these products are being linked to ovarian
Cancer,
cancer.
yep.
Yeah, and it's like, who uses these products the most? Black
Hmm.
women. So it's like,
And whose health is studied the least?
yeah,
Black woman.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like it's so dumb to be racist. It's so dumb to, and this is why too, when we look at celebrities or people like that, and they say racist or just like bigotry is spewing out of their mouth, like we can't separate what they're saying from the
From what
artists
they're
or
doing,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
That we find
like,
entertaining, yeah.
because these people hold like power and like money and control over things. And without like putting a stop to it or like holding people accountable, like the state of the world, it's just going to continue in that direction. So like we really need to do a better job and like buck up on family members. It starts in their home. It
It does,
honestly does.
with the uncomfortable conversations, calling out if necessary, just getting people to acknowledge, like you
Mhm.
said with microaggressions. I remember a time where I was working for this company and I was in, basically in charge of the hiring and the firing process and all of that. And I just remember at one point, and I'm sure it meant in a good way, and this is the point of it being microaggressions, right? Saying how I don't see color, like they said, "Oh,
Mhm.
but you don't see color." And I was like, no, it's not that I don't see it. I absolutely see it. That's the most ignorant thing ever. Like, I see it. I recognize it for its beauty. I love all the different shades of people. It's I don't judge based off of color. That's a
Yeah.
very different thing.
Yeah.
And I think like what you said, like see if you have those, racist tendencies, which a lot of people do. And it's like, that's okay as long as you're actually acknowledging it and not just, oh, I have a black friend, so I'm not racist, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we touched on microaggressions, we talked on colorism, and yeah, the history of racism, which I feel like in the Caribbean as well, we need to really I understand like how terrible it was and how terrible it still is,
And
because
not acting like this is millions of years ago. This is really like when you look at the span of time, this wasn't that long ago
no,
that
it
these
was
things were
not.
happening. So it's like to just say like get over it or it's not the case anymore. It's like no, racism is alive and well.
Yeah,
And
and it's
it's
so
proof positive
systematic.
in the United States, it's proof
Yeah,
positive.
it's so systematic because when you have these people like white people oppressing black people and treating them like they're so dehumanized at this point that like their property, they can't do anything, they can't go anywhere, like they can't even have like relationships the way like things are I guess in a way better now that way where we still have like some level of choice,
Mhm.
but like being treated as property. And then you have East Indian people, whenever black people talk about how terrible slavery has been and jumping into the conversation saying that, oh well, East Indian people had it hard too. Yes, you did have it hard, but it's nothing compared to what black people have been through and continue to go through to this day. So I think that's another part of addressing racism too, especially when like the most oppressed people speak up, not being like, oh well, we had it
Right.
bad too,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Same like we were talking earlier about BLM and
Mm-hmm.
why that was so huge and continues to still be from there. Where those like to me, it's like if you're still on the side of ALM, then you've kind of missed the entire point, right? It's like we're not saying certain things are not challenging or anything like that, but it's again bringing it back to the subject and bringing it back to the fact that like why are you detracting away from that? Own what that was, understand, have empathy for it in any way that you can, but don't try to like bring up something else to make yourself feel better. I guess I don't know what it is. It's just to deflect
Yeah.
instead of actually getting to what the root cause is.
Yeah,
So
and that principle works for everything, just like to put a pin in that. Because, like, in relationships too, with
mhm.
like your significant other, if someone brings some like a problem, a issue that needs to be addressed to the forefront, and you deflect from it by like just speaking about something that you had buried inside of you that you
Has
did,
nothing to do with the moment.
yeah, it has nothing to do with the moment. Leave that aside for a little bit and focus
Yeah.
on like what has been addressed. And it's
Yeah.
like you gave like a really good like allegory for that, where it's like this house is on fire
Yeah.
right now.
This one's on fire right now and
Yeah.
needs attention right now, but you're like, "No, but I got to save that water because mine in like 10 to 15 years something could happen." So it's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, then you are not for the cause at that point." So that's why it was a problem when people said all lives matter instead of black lives matter, because it's basic. Those lives already matter. We're talking about the ones that have never mattered. Like, let's
Exactly.
be honest about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like even though we are talking about the topic of racism, like the way we are going about it, it's not as heavy as I thought it might have been.
Mm, true.
Obviously, it's still very important and heavy, but I think that's the point of having community and like being able to
Yeah.
talk about things like this so
Yeah.
that
And having those hard conversations, but also it's about your own safety.
mhm,
So, like, I personally, I'm not going to say like anybody is evil, but if you're racist, you're not somebody that's going to be around my circle. It's just not going to happen. As soon as I figure out that that's what the case is, I will remove myself, because to me, that's not an ideology.
yeah.
That's just hate that you have in your heart that you need to do some soul digging. And I don't know, like, it's something that, like, I've always thought, like, how nice, Michael Jackson and everything, how nice that we got to that point one day, and I would love to say that it'll happen in this life, but I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can only do with what we have. And again, it's like not allowing that to be in your life, I guess. Or at least if it's something where it's like, oh well, everybody has like the racist uncle,
I
and you have them in your life to a certain extent, but you won't listen to it. You will remove yourself from that. You will either say something, because I know that we were kind of speaking on that too, where it's like if you're in a room or in a enclosed space with like 10 to 12 people that are all making those comments. And I think it's the whole one, not contributing to try to fit in, because that's you saying racist comments, you're being racist in that
right.
moment, right? whether it's
Mhm.
whether it's like to fit in, it doesn't matter the
It
intention.
doesn't matter, no.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you can't shut it down because you don't feel safe to,
Mhm.
just removing yourself from that. Like, you will not, give any kind of attention. And then if somebody is asking why, be like, I don't speak to racists, like something like that,
Yeah.
I think would be what it is. And if they want to go from there, they want to go from there. But it's like, no, you just don't gaslight me. You just said a racist comment. So don't come and tell me that you're not racist. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it was just a joke. Like the whole, like, it was just a joke
And
thing. Yeah.
speaking of that, like we also had like a moment talking about like movies that haven't aged well because it's
Mm,
so racist,
yep.
and like a lot of people would say, oh, like people now are just so soft,
Mm-hmm.
like we could have take a joke back then, now no one can take a joke. And I think we need to like really pay attention to the flip side of that.
And assess what's a joke and what's funny.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, just because it was okay or passable in the 80s, 90s, and before, but it's like, better, do better. So it's like we
Mhm.
could be doing better in the writing rooms of these shows and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when it goes to show too, like if we were so comfortable back then having writers write these things, even this director, I think Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino. Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember a person of color making this comment saying that why is this white person so comfortable having writers like say the N word so much in his movies?
Mm.
And that really made my like perception, it changed my perception a bit too, because yeah, I think like even in Hollywood, it gives you an idea of what is comfortable.
Because that's what we're turning to, right? Like the
Yeah.
average consumer, we're turning to media, we're turning to movies, we're turning to that, like, to know how to be in the world and like what's
Mhm.
acceptable and not. So it's like, again, if we're for showing that all the time, then yeah, how can we kind of expect people that are just literally following the pack, sheep's in
Mhm.
a herd? Then of
Yeah.
course I'm like, oh well, I saw it in that movie, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a joke, come
Yeah, it's
on.
just a joke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why it's important to raise our voices to whatever we do see racist things. I know like that's why too, like cancel culture is
Mm-hmm.
so interesting, and I don't like it, but I do believe that people need to be held accountable. So like when you do have like actors or whoever
Hmm.
that are like being racist, I do think that
Call them
they,
out.
yeah, they need to be called out. And like people do go as far as like, boycotting movies or shows and that kind of thing. And I see the value in doing that, because at the end of the day, what you put your attention to, what you put your money to, that is what hurts the most. And that's where people in authority begin to understand, okay, the masses aren't fucking around. We can't control them this way. Like, we need to do better. So,
Yeah.
like, at the end of the day, remember that, like, you exist, you hold power, and it's all about like being a part of the collective that wants to do better, that wants to see the world become better. It may feel futile, it may feel like it might not happen in our lifetime,
It
but
feels
we'll never know
exhausting.
unless we
Yes, we
try.
exactly. It's like we can do our part and that's all we can do. It's not necessarily like, like the forcing of others. People will be who they are, but you get to be who you are. And it's a lot less lonely than it was. Like, talking
Mhm.
about pioneers that came ahead of time and everything. It's like they kind of set the groundwork. So,
Mhm.
yes, there is a lot of racism, unfortunately, but there is a lot of woke people too. There are a lot of people that are, put that on their list of people they don't fucks with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and like you get to decide where you want to be. I feel like woke has gotten like a bad rep, but there's literally nothing wrong with being woke.
Yeah.
Actually, it's like the best thing.
Yeah,
You could be
awareness. Like start with
awareness.
yourself.
Yeah.
Once you have self-awareness, then you're going to start to actually look around you and see things for what they are and not the pretty picture that you're painting because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we would love to live in this kind of world where there are no racists and everything like that, right? But that's not the world we live in. So,
Yeah. And like there's a lot of illusion, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Even, I mean, I can't speak to other Caribbean islands, but like I thought I thought my country was way more accepting than it actually was, because now you hear these stories of like people who are mixed and one side of their family is very racist, and it's like there are a lot of people who look like me who have like my similar mix, and it's like you're really going to be racist to like a population where a good chunk of us are mixed. Like, it doesn't make sense. And
yeah.
like you see it in like the political parties and stuff as well, where one is predominantly like Indian and the other one is black. And then when it's time for elections, like people really show their true colors with like the racism and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, I think awareness is so important, self-awareness, and also that awareness that comes from just observing
Yep.
more. So keep
Just
observant.
noticing things and you don't need to punish yourself for them necessarily. Just kind of taking accountability as you notice things or be like, whoa, like this is how my family used to speak, so I understand why, like it's kind of in the back of my head for whatever reason, right? It's like owning that, I think, first, like
Mhm.
tackling
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
is a really good first step. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to go there, you just got some steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you would like to continue this conversation with us, our next Q&A will be next week.
Yeah, we'll list the date.
We listed it.
Yeah.
So we look forward to seeing who joins us, and we look forward to hearing from you in the comments or when you tune in the next episode.
Yeah. We'll see
Yeah.
you next
See you
time.
next time. Bye.
Bye.